Namaste friends, welcome to another video from BioStudies. Now in the previous video we have started the new chapter, that is the living word, and in the previous video we were trying to find out the meaning for the word living or life. This video is the part 2 of the living word. Okay, now the characters that we have listed for the living organism, they are growth, reproduction, metabolism, cellular organization and consciousness. Now in this video we will take these characters one by one and we'll try to find out the meaning for the word living or the life. Okay, now the first character is what? It is growth. Now in general what we call as growth is any object that is increasing in its size. We usually refer it as a growth. So we say that an object is growing. Okay, but biologically, how do you define the term growth? Growth can be defined as the irreversible increase in the size and mass of an organism. Now why the biological process of growth is irreversible? Now here we will take an example. Assume now this side we have a baby elephant. Okay, now this side we have a mother elephant. Okay, the same species, baby elephant and mother elephant. Now this baby elephant, it will gradually increase in its size and it will attain the size of mother elephant. So over a period of time this baby elephant will attain the size of mother elephant. Okay, but this mother elephant, it says, oh, I'm so tired of carrying this heavy weight, so let me go back to the size of baby elephant. Now, well, is this possible in the nature? No, we all know that it is not possible in the nature. Why? The science behind this is because the biological process, that is growth, is always unidirectional. It can occur only in one direction. So but growth, it can't occur in a reverse direction. Okay, that's why we refer it as irreversible here. So growth is always irreversible. Next half sentence is, it is increase in the size and mass of an organism. Okay, now when I say organism, now ultimately the body of an organism, what it is made up of? It is made up of a cell. So when I say cell here, the generalized cell with a cell membrane, then cytoplasm or protoplasm and a nucleus. Okay, now when this cell is formed from its mother body, okay, now this cell, it starts accumulating the protoplasmic material. That means it gradually increases in its size. Okay, now once this cell attains a certain size, that is genetically determined, predetermined size, now further it can't grow. Okay, further it can't increase in its size, and what happens here? This single cell simply it divides into two daughter cells. Okay, but very important here, whatever the protoplasmic material was there in this cell, it will be divided among the two daughter cells. Now what these two daughter cells will do now? Again they will start accumulating the protoplasmic material. They will grow bigger in size. Okay, and then they undergo again division. Okay, and to form a daughter cells. So in this example there is a formation of 4 daughter cells. Okay, so ultimately what is happening here? The number of cells are increasing. Okay, so when there is a number of cells increasing in an organism, ultimately these increase in the cell number, they will cause increase in the size of an organism. So why there is an increase in size? This is due to increase in the number of cells. Okay, first one. Now why there is increase in mass then? Now see, when the number of cell is increasing, ultimately the protoplasmic material will also get increased, isn't it? So this increase in size and increase in mass of an organism is mainly due to cell division, first one. Okay, and it is due to cell enlargement. sometimes also referred as cell elongation. So whatever increase in the size and mass of an organism is happening, that is because of what? That is because of cell division and cell enlargement. So how do you define growth? Growth is a irreversible increase in the size and mass of an organism. Okay, now we have two types of growth. The first one is external growth, okay, and second one is internal growth. External growth and internal growth. Now what is the difference here? External growth, it always occurs in non-living things, okay, and internal growth, this occurs in the living things. Simple differentiation. Okay, now when I say external growth is happening inside the happening in non-living things, so whether the non-living things also grow? Yes, some of the non-living things, especially the mountains, okay, the stones or the sand dunes. Okay, now in case of these non-living structures, there will be increase in their size. Okay, now why there is increase? What is causing increase in the size of these structures? Now see, in nature there will be a continuous water flow and there is a continuous wind blow, isn't it? Now because there is a continuous water flowing and wind blowing, there will be an accumulation of materials over the surface of these structures. So very important here. So whatever growth we are referring in this condition, it is always the accumulation of materials, accumulation of chemicals over the surface of these structures and ultimately causing the increase in the size. Okay, this process is also called as accretion. Just remember, okay. So due to accumulation of substances over their surface, there is an increase in the size. Therefore, we refer it as the term external growth. Okay. Now, next one is internal growth. Now, what happens here? In case of living things, the body is made up of what? The body is made up of cells. So, when there is a presence of cell, these cells ultimately they have to undergo division. They can't remain as it is. Okay. So, when there is increase in the number of cells, it will cause increase in the size and mass of an organism. So whatever growth is happening, it is inside the body of an organism. Okay, why we are growing? Because the cells which are present in our body, they are undergoing division and they will form the tissue into an organ into an organ system, then an organism. So in case of living things, the growth is always internal. Okay, there is no accumulation which is causing increase in the size of a human being. Whatever is happening, it is inside our body. So there is a external growth and internal growth. External in case of non-living and internal in case of living things. Okay, now there is one more category. Again we have two types of growth. The first one is determinate growth. Okay, then indeterminate growth. Now what is this? Determinate and indeterminate growth. Okay, determinate growth means what? It is a definite or it is a limited growth. Okay, how about indeterminate? It is like a endless growth or it is an indefinite growth. Okay, so we have determinate growth and indeterminate growth. Now determinate growth, it occurs in animals, and indeterminate growth, this occurs in plant body parts. Okay, so this is interesting. Determinate in case of animals and indeterminate in case of plant body parts. Now what is the exact meaning of determinate? It is the limited growth. For example, if you take human being, up to certain age we will grow, isn't it? Like when you were in first standard, imagine your height, okay, maybe around 1 to 2 feet. Okay, now you have grown up, you are in 11th standard, so now your height must be around 5 to 6 feet. Okay. Now for another 1 or 2 years maximum, you can increase your body height up to 7 feet. Now after that, this height remains constant. So I mean to say here, in case of animals and human beings, up to certain age the body will show growth, the body will show increase in its size. This example what we have taken here, it is with respect to height. Height in the sense we have a genetically determined body axis. Okay, it is genetically determined already. So up to that point we can grow, but later the height of the organism, it will just stop. Okay. So does it mean that after this age, after this period, whether the cell division will stop inside our body? No. Cell division will be there throughout our life, but after certain age, the cell division and cell enlargement inside our body, it will be restricted only to the repair and replacement of the body parts. So remember here, in case of determinant, cell division will be there throughout the life of an organism, but that cell division, it will be restricted to the repair and the replacement of an body part. Okay. Now how about in case of plant body? So if you observe a plant body, it will show a endless growth unless and until it is getting a proper water and nutrients from the soil. It will keep on adding its body parts, like it will keep on adding the root system, the many branches and the leaves. So the growth is indefinite, endless here. Okay. So the cell division and cell enlargement, again it will be there throughout the life of a plant body. Okay. So we can differentiate determinate growth and indeterminate growth. Okay. So overall growth, we have irreversible increase in size and mass. This is due to cell division and cell enlargement. Then we have external and internal growth. Then we have determinate and indeterminate growth. Okay. Now our question, that is, what is living? So can we call it as living is a thing which exhibits growth? No, we can't. Why? Because we have a non-living things which are also exhibiting increase in their size. Okay. So therefore, growth is not an exclusive character of living things. It is not an unique character. It is just one of the general characters of the living things. It is just one of the features of life. Okay. Now next one we'll take reproduction. So second general character that we are considering here is reproduction. Now what do you mean by the term reproduction? How do you define the term reproduction? Okay. Now very interesting topic, reproduction. So how do you define the term reproduction? Now see here, reproduction, it is formation of progeny, that is group of individuals, progeny of new individuals. Okay, sorry. So progeny of new individuals from where? From the parent body, or sometimes also referred as the matured members. Okay, so how do you define reproduction? It is the formation of progeny of new individuals from parent body or the matured members of the species. Okay. Now once there is a formation of new individuals, also referred as offsprings, one and the same. Okay. So once there is a formation of offsprings here, these new individuals more or less they will resemble the parent body. Okay. And this we call it as what? We call it as reproduction. Now as we know, again there are two types, that is asexual reproduction, and second one we have sexual reproduction. Okay, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. What is the difference here? The first difference is asexual reproduction, it always involves only one individual or one parent. Okay, but sexual reproduction, see the term sex here, that means there is an involvement of sexual organisms, that is male and female. So in case of sexual reproduction, there is an involvement of two organisms or two parents. Okay, so asexual reproduction, only one individual. Then see here, asexual means what? Without the sexual organism, but here there is an involvement of sexual organism. Now second difference is asexual reproduction, it usually occurs in lower organisms, but sexual reproduction occurs in both lower as well as higher organisms. Okay, now third important is, compared to asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction is more complicated. Now why it is more complicated? Because now we know that sexual reproduction involves male organism and female organism. Now during sexual reproduction, these male and female bodies, they will produce the reproductive units which are called as gametes. So what are gametes? Gametes are the reproductive units formed from the sexual organisms. Now we have a male gamete here which is haploid, and again a female gamete which is again a haploid. Now during sexual reproduction, these male and female gametes, they will undergo fusion, okay, to form an embryo, also called as zygote or embryo. Okay, more precisely zygote. So sexual reproduction is complicated because it involves formation of gametes, then formation of fusion of gametes, then formation of zygote. Now this zygote will undergo continuous division to form an embryo into a new organism. Okay, so therefore sexual organism is a bit complicated, but asexual, since there is an involvement of only one parent, this is easier one. Okay, now we will take 4 different types of asexual reproduction. The first one is spore formation. All these 4 types are very important for CET and NEET. Now spore formation, this usually occurs in the body of fungi. Okay, now during spore formation, the main parent body of fungi, now this is the main parent body. Okay, now these main parent bodies, they will form asexual bodies. Okay, now these asexual bodies, they consist of the structures, minute structures, what we call it as spore. Okay, now what is a spore? Spore is a microscopic biological unit, reproductive unit, and each spore has the capacity to develop into a new organism. Now see, once there is a formation of this asexual body, this body will burst open to release millions of spores. Okay, and these spore, so each spore, they will form a new individual. So spore formation in fungi is the first type of asexual reproduction. Now second type of reproduction is budding. So which are the animals that exhibit budding? The best example is hydra. Okay, then we have yeast. Okay, now what happens in the parent body of hydra and yeast? Now imagine, now this is the parent hydra. Okay, and this is the parent body of yeast. Okay, now during asexual reproduction, these parent bodies, they will form and small outgrowths. Okay, now these small outgrowths, we call it as bud. Okay, now gradually these bud, they will increase in size and ultimately they will get separated from the parent body, and each bud has the capacity to develop into a new individual. Okay, so budding is also another type of asexual reproduction which takes place in hydra and yeast. Okay, now third one. The third type of asexual reproduction is fragmentation. Now this fragmentation, it occurs in filamentous algae. Example is Spirogyra. Okay, now in case of filamentous algae, now imagine this is the main parent body. Okay, now during asexual reproduction, now this main filament, okay, it is a random process. Okay, now the main filament, it will get divided randomly. Okay, now each one of these fragment has the capacity to develop into a new individual. So just a filament, it will be broken down, it will be divided into many fragments, and each fragment will be a new individual. So fragmentation is also one of the type for asexual reproduction. Now the fourth type is true regeneration. Now, which is the example for true regeneration? You have already studied this in lower classes. It is planaria. Okay, now if you consider, now here I'll draw, if you consider the main body of planaria, something like this, okay, the anterior part and the posterior part. Okay, now if there is any cut, okay, in the body, the main body of an animal, forming two body parts here now, anterior part and the posterior part. So I will draw here, this is the anterior part. Okay, now this is the posterior part. Now these two body parts, what they will do, they will regenerate its lost body part. Okay, so here anterior is present, so posterior part will be developed, and here posterior is present, anterior part will be developed or regenerated. Okay, and ultimately there is a formation of two new individuals. Okay, so since there is a formation of new individuals, true regeneration is also referred as a type of asexual reproduction. All these four types with example are very important for the entrance exams. So remember, types of asexual reproduction, that is spore formation in fungi, budding in hydra and yeast, fragmentation in filamentous algae or Spirogyra, then true regeneration in case of planaria. Okay, so this is about the reproduction. Now see here, in all these cases there will be a formation of new organisms, but the important thing is only one parent is involved here. That's why it is a asexual reproduction. Okay, now how about reproduction in case of unicellular organisms? Now, which is the best example for unicellular organism that we have been studying since our 5th or 6th standard? It is amoeba. Okay, so how about reproduction in case of unicellular organisms like amoeba? Now example, now assume this is a body of amoeba. Okay, now this amoeba, when it is formed from the mother body, it will start growing. That means it will increase in its size due to the cellular functions or accumulation of protoplasmic material, and once it attains the certain size, it will get divided into two daughter cells. Okay, now again these two daughter cells, they will undergo cell enlargement, and again they will undergo division to form daughter cells again. Okay, now two concepts are very important here. In case of unicellular, where uni means what? One, cellular means cell. So the body is made up of only single cell. Even though the body is made up of a single cell, this single cell is performing all the functions of the organisms. So whenever there is a cell enlargement and cell division, what do we call for that process? We call it as a growth, isn't it? So because there is a cell enlargement and cell division, we refer this process as a growth. But there is a formation of new individuals. So when there is a formation of new individuals, what do we call for that process? We call it as a reproduction. So what is happening here? In case of unicellular organisms, growth and reproduction are the synonyms. So both the types are exhibited by a single organism. Okay, now there is an exception. Now we are studying reproduction with respect to the living organisms. But how about mule What is mule? How mule is obtained? Mule is obtained when the male donkey breeds with female horse, isn't it? So when male donkey breeds with a female horse, they will form a mule, but this mule is always sterile. So even though it is a living organism, it is sterile. Another example, in case of honeybee, we have studied worker honeybee. Now what are these worker honeybees? These are the sterile females in the colony. Okay, they will not again reproduce. That means even though they are the living organisms, again they are sterile. Okay, now how about in case of infertile human? So due to some changes with respect to the structure or function of the reproductive organs or the reproductive system, some of the human beings, they can't reproduce. Okay, so infertile human or infertile couple, so again it is a example for sterility or sterile. So we have an exception here, mule or worker honeybee or infertile human. So now can you call reproduction is an exclusive character of living? No, because there are some exceptions. Even though they are living, they are not exhibiting the property of reproduction. So reproduction is also not an defining character, not an exclusive character. It is one of the general characters of living things. Third character of the living organisms, that is metabolism. Now what do you mean by this process? Metabolism. The term meta refers to change. Okay. Now what is this metabolism? We know that the living organism's body is always made up of what? It is made up of chemicals. Okay. Now these chemicals, what is happening inside our body? Some of these chemicals are newly formed. Okay. And some of the chemicals which have formed already, they will be undergoing breaking or division, breakdown. Okay, and some of the chemicals, they are getting transformed from one structure into another structure, one form into another form. Okay, now all these set of chemical reactions that is taking place inside the body of a living organism, we call it as metabolism. So what is metabolism? How do you define it? It is the sum total of, okay, the sum total of all the chemical reactions, taking place inside the body of an organism. Okay, now we have two types of metabolic reactions. The first type is called as anabolism. Okay, anabolism, and second type is called as catabolism. So we have two types here, anabolism and catabolism. Now what is the difference here? Anabolic reactions, it refers to a constructive reactions. Okay, but catabolism, kata means breaking. So catabolism is a destructive reaction. Okay, so in case of anabolism, it is a formation of few chemicals. Okay, but here destructive means it is the breakdown of the chemicals. So constructive metabolic reaction, and this is the destructive metabolic reaction. Okay, now we'll take an example. See, in case of anabolism, what happens is the simple molecules which are present. Okay, now these simple molecules, they will aggregate. Okay, and they will be ultimately leading to the formation of a complex molecule. So these are the simple molecules or simple chemicals, and they will form the complex molecules. That is the example for anabolism. Now exactly opposite will be the catabolism. That is, there is already a complex molecule. Okay, and this complex molecule, it will break down into many simple molecules. Now these are the simple molecules here. Okay, so here it is a formation of a complex molecule and here it is a breakdown of the complex molecule. Second difference. Third difference, will take example. Okay, now example for anabolic reaction, the most famous is photosynthesis. Now what is this photosynthesis? It is a process which takes place inside the plant body, inside the leaf. Okay, now what happens during photosynthesis is carbon dioxide and water in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, they will form C6H12O6, that is sugar molecule plus oxygen. Okay, now here carbon dioxide and water, these are the simple molecules. Okay, but C6H12O6, this is the sugar, that is the complex molecule. So a complex molecule is forming from the simple molecules. Okay, this is the anabolism. Now what is the reaction for catabolism? It is the respiration. Now what happens during respiration? Again exactly the opposite. The sugar molecules, okay, now these sugar molecules in presence of oxygen, they will be broken down into carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so photosynthesis, example for anabolism, and respiration, it is an example for catabolism. Okay, now see here, whenever there is a formation of complex molecule, there is an involvement of energy. Now see here, what does this sunlight refers to? It refers to the energy, okay, solar energy. So anabolic reactions, they involves the energy, that is they consume the energy. But how about this catabolism? Whenever there is a breakdown of complex molecules, the energy is always released. Okay, so during anabolism, energy is consumed, and during catabolism, the energy is released. Okay, so these are the two types of metabolism. Now these are nothing but what? These are the chemical reactions, isn't it? Now you must have seen in chemistry laboratories where you perform many chemical reactions. Okay, so when I say chemical reactions, so the reactions which are taking place inside your test tube, okay, now all these are the chemicals undergoing reactions. So here also there is a chemical reaction, and this is also a example for chemical reaction. Whether these two types of reactions are same, whether we call test tube as a living thing now? Certainly no. Why? Because the reactions which are taking place inside the cell. So here comes the word cell, that is cellular organization, that is our next character. So chemical reactions that are taking place inside the cell, only those reactions we call it as a metabolic reactions. Okay, but these reactions taking place inside the test tube is not a living thing. These reactions are not making the test tube live. But how about these two reactions? They are making us alive. They are making our body functional. Okay, so these are nothing but the in vitro. That is, what do you mean by in vitro? That is outside the body. Okay, so metabolism is one of the defining character of living organisms, because none of the non-living things, they exhibit these type of reactions. Okay, there is one more point here. Why they don't exhibit reactions? Because non-living things, their body is not made up of cell, the biological unit of a body or a life, that is cell. Okay, so metabolism is a defining character. It is an unique character of living organism. Okay, now fourth one, here we have seen cell. So the fourth point is what? It is cellular organization. Now this is a very small concept, very easy to understand. Now what is this cellular organization? Now see here, cellular organization. Okay, now the living body, okay, it is of two types. First one is unicellular and multicellular. Okay, now how do you differentiate between these two? Unicellular body is made up of a single cell, but here the number of cell is more, that is many cells. Okay, now here we take an example of amoeba. Now this is one organism whose body is made up of a single cell. Even though that organism is made up of a single cell, now that single cell is performing all the functions of a organism. That means it is functionally very active. Biologically, this single cell is very active. Now in case of multicellular organisms where the body is made up of many cells, now all these cells, they will differentiate into tissue. Okay, different types of tissue, they will form what? They will form an organ. Now different organs, now they will aggregate to form an organ system, and organ system, they will ultimately form an organism. Okay, this is how it goes in multicellular organism. So whether it is a unicellular or multicellular, the presence of cell is must. Okay, so that's why we define the cell as the fundamental, structural, okay, and functional. So you may be knowing this definition. How do you define a cell? It is the basic, fundamental, structural and functional unit of an organism. That means structurally also organism is made up of cell, and whatever the function that organism is exhibiting, that is also because of cell. Therefore, cellular organization is an defining character of living things. Okay, so this character is not seen in case of non-living things. Okay, so far we have studied 4 characters, that is growth and reproduction, metabolism and cellular organization. Growth and reproduction, very important. They are not the defining characters, they are the general characters of living organisms. But metabolism and cellular organization, these are defining character of living organisms. Now the last one is consciousness. Now what do you mean by consciousness? Okay, now what is this consciousness? Now if we take in case of human being, now whenever you touch any hot object, now suddenly you will retract your hand. Okay, now whenever there is a high wind blowing, you will start blinking your eyes, isn't it? Now what are these? These are nothing but you are giving response to an stimuli. Okay, external stimuli. So this property itself we call it as consciousness. So what is consciousness? It is ability of an organism, okay, to respond to a stimuli. So 2 words are very important. Now we have an organism here. Okay, now this organism is getting some stimulus or stimuli, and then it is sensing that stimuli with the help of what? With the help of sense organs. So we have eyes, ears, nose, skin, all these are the sense organs. So with the help of these sense organs, we are sensing or we are understanding that stimuli, okay, and we are giving response to that stimuli. And this property we call it as a consciousness. It is an ability of an organism to give response to a stimuli. Now when I say stimulus or plural stimuli, these stimuli may be of different kinds. They may be physical, they may be chemical, or they may be living. Okay, so physical we have light, temperature. Then chemical, now I'll note down here, physical, it may be light, it may be temperature. Chemical stimuli may be presence of acids in a surrounding. Then living may be any enemies, okay, or even pollen grains. examples for biological stimuli. Okay, so whenever we perceive these kind of stimuli, our body will start giving a response. So this we call it as a consciousness. Even in case of plants also, the plants are very much sensitive to the presence of light and temperature. So depending on the variation in the light and temperature, the plant body will give different responses in its growth. Okay, even in with respect to reproduction. So all the living organisms, whether it is a lower organism or the higher organism, they give response to the stimuli. How in case of lower organisms, if you take an amoeba which is present in a, or you can take paramecium or euglena which are present in a fresh water, if there is a minute change in the concentration of the water, that is environment in which they are living, they can respond very quickly and easily. Why? Because they have what you call inbuilt mechanism to sense the change in the environment and give response to an environment. Okay, so this property is called it as consciousness. And again, consciousness is one of the defining character of living organism. None of the non-living things exhibit this consciousness, and more precisely, human being is the only animal which is self-conscious. So what is this self-conscious? Human being, not only the external stimuli, we can give response to the changes that are taking place inside our body. So whether the stimulus is from outside or inside, we are able to sense that stimuli and we are able to respond to that stimuli in a particular way. So that is the meaning of self-consciousness. Okay, so remember, consciousness is a defining character for all the living organisms, but self-consciousness is the only important character seen only in human beings. Okay, now all these are the 5 important characters of life, which are those: growth, reproduction, metabolism, cellular organization, and last one is consciousness. Out of these 5 what we have studied, 3 are defining, which are those: metabolism, cellular organization, and consciousness. And growth and reproduction, these are the general characters of living organisms. Now in the next video, we will start with the total number of living organisms and the study of those organisms. Okay, now this video is all about the characters of life or living. So ultimately, after studying all these 5 characters, how do you define the term living now? Because our question was, what is living? What is life? So how you can define the term living or life now? Anything that is having cellular organization and which is exhibiting metabolic reactions and giving response to a stimuli, we call that organism as a living things. No doubt it is also exhibiting growth and reproduction, but 3 are important, that is metabolic reaction, that is, and then cellular organization and consciousness. Okay, thank you for watching.